Right. Welcome to the National Catholic College Admission Association College Fair. We're so excited to have you participating in this event. We have some fantastic panelists here with us today. My name is Nashira, and I will be your facilitator. Before we get started, a few housekeeping items. Your camera and microphone are off, so the panelists cannot see or hear you. You can use the Q&A button on your screen to type your questions to our presenters at any time. This is just one of many different sessions happening, so be sure to check out the schedule on the website. This presentation is being recorded and will be available at strivescan.com/NCCAA. Now, I'd like to turn it over to our panel, Why Catholic Colleges?
Good afternoon or good morning, depending on what part of the world you're in right now. But thank you for joining us for Why Catholic Colleges. Today, Faith and I are both very passionate about this subject. So we are pleased that you're taking a portion of your Sunday and in your time with family to join us today, and hope that we can provide a little bit of information about Catholic colleges and the college search. My name is Murray Cox. I serve as the Assistant Vice President for Enrollment and Dean of Admission at St. Louis University in St. Louis, Missouri. I also serve as the past president of this fine organization's college fair that you're joining today, the National Catholic College Admission Association. Faith, will you introduce yourself?
Yeah, of course. Hi, guys. My name is Faith Geis. I'm a sophomore here at Creighton University, so obviously a Catholic university. I'm currently studying business marketing and management and working towards getting a minor in theology as well.
Thank you, Faith. Okay, I'm going to pause for 1 second and pull up some slides real quick to share my screen so that you can see some things that we think are the pillars and main cornerstones of Catholic education. So please bear with me for one moment here. Okay, thank you for that pause. Okay, so why Catholic higher education? One of the first things that really stood out to Faith and I when we were talking was critical thinking at Catholic institutions. One of the key components in Catholic and Jesuit institutions, I guess I should pause also and say that Faith and I are both members of Jesuit Catholic institutions, which is just a subset of Catholic education where I would say, and Faith will talk about this, both of us will talk about this throughout the presentation, but you'll find service, a key component of that, social justice, some of those pillars that are specifically known for Jesuit education. But with critical thinking, I think you're going to find this at all Catholic institutions. We really try to search for truth and justice in all things and lead our thought processes and curriculums and decisions on college campuses with critical thinking. An example of this at St. Louis University can even be found in our capstone experiences. So some of our students upon graduation will do really hands-on applied learning capstone experiences. One of those topics is even entitled critical thinking here. So it's something that we want students to participate in, keep track of, and have tangible outcomes with from the beginning of their college experience. But Faith, tell us a little bit, Faith is the expert here. Faith is currently receiving a Catholic higher education right now. So how is critical thinking used in your education, Faith?
So you use critical thinking on the daily, and the cool thing is the deepened version of critical thinking you get to do at a Catholic university. Excuse me. So you tie in the higher power and knowledge that there is, the dignity of human people and different things like that. At Creighton, we have our Jesuit Values that we also, I assume you have at St. Louis as well. We tie into every class. So whether that be Magis, which is striving for more, care of the whole person, cura personalis, or different things like that, they're incorporated into every classroom, whether that be biology, psychology, or even accounting, believe it or not. but it just adds such a beautiful way of thinking about the world and the application to the human person.
Faith just gave us a bunch of words that you hear a lot throughout Catholic education too. The Magis, Secura Personalis are all, I don't want to say buzzwords, that makes them sound not as important as they really are, but things that in Catholic education you will keep hearing, because we do have a common thread throughout Catholic education that you'll keep hearing: our care and concern. And that's what those things really deep in the heart mean. So you're going to hear that a lot from us, and you probably hear it a lot throughout time in Catholic education. Our next pillar of Catholic education is social justice. Again, something that you'll hear in Catholic and especially Jesuit Catholic education. We do try to seek truth and justice in all things. I don't think there is a better time in the world for a campus and curriculum centered on social justice that is embedded, I know, in St. Louis's, I'm sure in Creighton's too, missions for the university. So we are guided by looking at social justice and making decisions based on such.
So in addition,
Go ahead, Faith.
In addition to having social justice be a key component in learning and education with different issues, talking about, I know I'm currently in a business law class where we sit and for the first 10 to 15 minutes talk about current issues and bring up the social justice aspect and get to view it kind of from a law perspective, which is really interesting as someone who's not planning on going into law to get that insight. But something that Creighton University also offers that is pretty common, I believe, at other universities as well, is service and justice trips, where you focus on social justice for an entire week. So specifically to Creighton, because that's the experience I can speak to, we get a week off in both the fall and spring semesters. And during those times, you have the opportunity to go across the nation. So I had a friend who was down in Louisiana doing service. I had a friend who was in New Mexico. I'm at the border learning about immigration, social justice issues there. Oh my gosh. So quite literally all over the state. I'm like, people are in Minnesota, people are in Texas, but having the opportunity to strive towards social justice and take action towards making the world a better place.
That's great. You're making me want to be a student again, Faith. We saw this come to life on our campus, social justice come to life in St. Louis fairly recently too, through our Clock Tower Accords. The Clock Tower Accords are something that St. Louis University students worked with the community around us and really the world around us at the time. And we came out of that with a commitment to SLU, our students, to actively strengthen diversity, access, and equity for the pursuit of inclusivity on our campus. The Accords really commit us to the city of St. Louis and our suburban neighbors, and really made us say, okay, we are situated where we are in a city, in an urban area, with a student body that has care and concern for humanity for a reason. So let's look at this social justice aspect that is in our laps and see how we can really broaden the perspective of our students, faculty, staff, and really serve our community at the same time. So I think you're going to see that at many Catholic college campuses, I know at Creighton and at St. Louis. So our next pillar is mission-driven core curriculum. I think you're going to see core curriculum at most Catholic colleges. That's not an unusual thing at all. And there's many reasons for that. One, so that students can get a well-rounded education, so that they have also the ability to switch between majors, either on our campuses, or if for some reason our campus is not the right place for them, at a different Catholic college or university, and also for a time to degree standard for students. So there's some real reasons for core curriculum. We have a new core curriculum that will launch at SLU for this year for our freshman students. And the purpose of that is to guide students through intellectual experiences and simultaneously invite them to think about who they are and what they can bring to the table for the good of all. We've got a lot of seminars about such things and innovative topics for students to really dig in and get that mission driven type seminar and focus. Faith, I'm guessing you participate in some similar type things and have some core classes that are meaningful for mission.
Yeah. So what I love about our core classes is, so whichever college you're in under the Creighton University umbrella. So personally, I'm in the business school, but arts and sciences, nursing, what have you, you have the opportunity to take these core classes that give you the opportunity to have that overlap. And the whole point that Creighton strives toward with those core classes is so you have a well-rounded base for your education, whether that be English. Currently, I'm in a history class that's Native American history throughout the US. So that I find absolutely fascinating. But in these core classes, you have the opportunity to get exposure to things that might not be specific to your major, what you're interested in studying. But in that, you also get the opportunity to strive and figure out, hey, maybe I don't know what I'm doing. Maybe I really enjoyed this class and now I'm going to take more classes in that pursuit. And that's the intent behind that. And also that intent of that critical thinking is building right on that, making sure that you understand how English and grammar work, but also can learn how to do computer programming and different stuff at Creighton at least. So it's very cool.
Very good. Thank you for sharing, Faith. Our next pillar that we'll talk about is holistic education, although I think we've already probably touched on that a little bit from the comments that we've both said, but holistic education is important. We believe in well-rounded, really liberal arts education for all students, regardless of major. We want students to be able to take humanities type courses if they want to, even if they want to be a surgeon or an accountant or a pilot at SLU. It doesn't mean that we don't want our students to leave well-rounded. And we hear that when we place people in jobs too. And I think a lot of Catholic colleges probably do that. We are training and providing for and teaching the whole person, not just the specific major that a student might pick. Faith, how have you experienced that?
Yeah, so I mentioned modus as one of our Jesuit values, and what that means quite literally is just more. But the whole concept and how Creighton chooses to view that Jesuit pillar is students should be striving for more, and that includes in their education. And Creighton does a really amazing job of understanding that, yes, education for the most part, in a very traditional way, happens in the classroom. But in addition, education happens in leading different groups. Education happens in going out and doing service. Education happens in different spots. So that whole holistic education and understanding that, to me, Faith, yes, I'm a student in the business school and other things like that, but I'm also involved in a leadership program. I'm also involved in a new student orientation group and different things like that. And those are still part of my education. I'm still learning through those. So, yes.
And I feel like you just teed up our next subject perfectly, Faith, of community service and how that kind of is interwoven through our disciplines, because it is important on Catholic campuses. And I do think that we normalize community service on Catholic campuses. It's something that is you learn from, but you also, it's that, as you just said, kind of that outside of the classroom that gives you experiences and hope and really interweaves you with the community. We have a Jesuit on our campus that really shared an eye-opening sentiment with me one time when we were talking about community service. And we run Campus Kitchen like a lot of Catholic and Jesuit universities do. And we were talking about Campus Kitchen and the community service and how many of our students participate in that. And I thought, that's a wonderful thing. And he said, that is a wonderful thing, but that's not our goal. Our goal with community service isn't just to serve the community and run that soup kitchen. Our goal as an institution is to be able to shut that soup kitchen down because we've solved the root problem. And we want our community service to be that ingrained and our students to be able to get to that level to change humanity. And I thought, wow, what an eye-opening way to say that community service is so much, and it's part of really a big worldwide picture. Faith, what have your experiences with community service been?
Yes, so our community service, there's tons of opportunities to get involved. Something that's nice about Creighton is how many hours we as a student body produce of community service, considering we don't have a requirement. It's something people are doing out of their free will here. It's run out of the same office as those service and justice trips I mentioned. So we have our Sligo Center for Service and Justice. The SCSJ is what we call it. But you can go in, and if you're interested, if you did a certain type of volunteering at home or somewhere in high school and really enjoy it and want to get involved in something similar, they can connect you, or you can volunteer through different programs. I know a lot of our fraternities and sororities have a lot of service. My roommates absolutely love it. Personally, I'm not in one, so I do a lot of service through the leadership program I'm in. And service can look so different in a lot of different ways. I know Ms. Cox mentioned soup kitchen. Something that I had so much joy doing was actually preparing a meal at a similar place off campus. They provided transportation, and I was just laughing with my friends as we were preparing like a salmon casserole, and it was one of the best memories of my semester. But also having the opportunity to do little things like we did a green, go green, like trash pickup across campus. Um, and just laughing and having fun while serving the community was it was a really great experience.
Very neat. Thank you for sharing that, Faith. And I think all of that is part of students' spiritual development while on college campuses. I actually was on a phone call yesterday with an admitted student's father, and we were talking. He had some last minute questions, leading up to May 1, which I think probably a lot of you here may be juniors, but May 1 of your senior year is kind of a big day. It's a national commitment day where you say where you think you may intend to end up going to school. And he was asking some last minute questions on his son's behalf and asked about spiritual development because it was important to them. And the thing I tell families a lot at SLU is our job is to help spiritually develop students. That does not mean our job is to turn them Catholic and or to only further their Catholic faith. That is great if a student comes in and their spiritual development is on that trajectory. It's also great if they want to grow spiritually in a different religion or no religion at all. We want students to become the most spiritual that they can be and what they want to be spiritual about. And our job is to help them get to that place. And we all have at Catholic colleges a variety of different clubs, organizations, and ways to help promote that. I think a misnomer in Catholic colleges is that 100% of our student body is Catholic. And while we probably do have more Catholic students, maybe than a non-Catholic university, it's not the overall arching student body. So for just an example for you, at St. Louis University, 48% of our students identify as Catholic. So we do have a large group of Catholic students, but it's not 95%, as I think that some students sometimes think when they're looking at Catholic colleges. So it is something that we provide support for, like we provide support for any spiritual development. Faith, do you want to talk a little bit about that at Creighton?
Yes, so we have a very similar mentality. Personally, I am Catholic, and finding a Catholic school is really important for me. So I've really been able to grow and experience a lot of things spiritually because I actively choose them. But I also have a lot of friends who I hang out with, have really amazing spiritual conversations with, who aren't practicing of any sort of religion or practicing of a different religion. And that's what's amazing about a place like Creighton is you have the opportunity to open the door for those conversations. And they really incite a lot of different growth and awareness about the world around you as well. There's also lots of opportunities, really intentional opportunities for spiritual development at Creighton, one of which is we have a really common mass that a lot of students attend, our candlelight at 9 p.m. on Sundays, which is where they're going to sing very like Christian-y, like radio songs, in addition to some church hymns, but it's a beautiful opportunity to just go. The entire church, our church is St. John's, is just lit by candles. So it's a very beautiful experience that I've had a lot of friends who aren't necessarily practicing Catholics. A lot of them are just Christian. They say, we enjoy that mass, we'll go. And just be in community. We also have different retreats that again offer to any sort of spiritual development or growth. but also have that opportunity where if you want to grow in your Catholic faith, those opportunities are here. And you find people who are growing and pursuing their relationship with Christ as well.
It's a great point, Faith. And I would say to this group too, as you visit campuses across the nation and you're making a selection, if it is of interest to you, look for those student-led type masses. We also have a 9 p.m. student-led mass on Sundays, which is just amazing, where over 1,000 students of multiple faiths come together, and it's really just community there, and it's neat to see. So as you're discerning where your right fit is or what might be a good fit for you, if your visit does coincide with that type of mass or gathering or something, that is something that you could really say, I see myself as a part of this or not. So as you visit different campuses, something to look for in Catholic colleges that you won't find everywhere else.
And I know I can't speak to St. Louis, but as far as Creighton, our admitted students days are, at least this semester and this year, they were on Mondays. So there's a lot of students with their parents who were able to come to mass Sunday evening before they came and visited the school on Monday. So yeah, be aware of that. Look for that. It's an amazing. I was telling Miss Cox when I was trying to figure out which college I wanted to go to, I was really unsure. I mean, I really wasn't very impressed with Creighton when I first was visiting. And my dad and I were here on a Sunday, and he said, well, why don't we go to mass before we go back? And I said, okay. We were sitting in St. John's, and my dad said, okay, are you ready to leave? And I said, well, let's see what else they have planned for the day. And everything after mass was fantastic, and everything else was more and more equally as amazing, and started to convince me that this could be the right place for me. And it was right. I love it here. So.
That's a great point. The college search will take many twists and turns for most students and most parents as you go through this process. So you're going to have people in admissions, whether they be me, the admission counselor, some great tour guides, orientation leaders, student employees. All of us are here because we're interested in helping students and families find the best fit for them. So we are a resource throughout your time. We are going to answer any question, whether we're the right institution for you or not. We're here to help and help you find that right institution. But since Faith just shared, I'm gonna veer just for a second, Faith, since you just shared your Creighton experience, which I think is so valuable for students that are searching for colleges right now to hear. Are there, as people begin searching for colleges and are considering Catholic universities, are there any tips that you would want to share for people that are just kind of looking and visiting and starting that college search? I know 9 p.m. mass was one of them, but are there other things that they should look for that as a tour guide you would suggest they do while they're on campus?
Yeah, I definitely say pay attention to the feel on campus. Personally, a lot of campuses, especially we're both in the Midwest, might have horrible weather days or things like that. That happens. That's part of life. But pay attention to like the climate of campus, as in the students, like the warmth and the students and faculty. I know I've been giving a lot of tours where a faculty member will quite literally stop us, especially like in the science buildings where they have cool lab stuff they can show. They'll stop and like show the students in that intentionality. Pay attention to that. That's a key indicator of how you'll be not only viewed as a potential student, but when you're actually a student, how they'll view and really care for you. One little thing that I did that really helped me was after every visit I went on, because they all started to kind of blend together. You know, we had your Midwest kind of Catholic, smaller schools were kind of the bulk of what I was looking at. I would sit in my car most of the time because I drove to most of them with my father, and I'd literally set up my phone and I'd just talk. And I'd be like, I liked this, I didn't like this, this is where I'm at. And it was nice to have my dad with as well on all the trips, because he'd chirp in with different facts that he remembered and I forgot. That's another thing, is if you have someone with you that you really trust, and it can be a parent, grandparent, sibling, aunt, uncle, whoever, even friend, if you really trust their opinion, bring them with. Ask them to like think of questions, because a lot of times you're kind of engulfed in the moment, but don't be afraid to ask really, really good questions. I love getting stumped as a tour guide. That means people are being really intentional. And then I get to direct them to a lovely admissions counselor who knows the actual answer, so I don't misguide them. But ask those intentional questions. If you want to know, ask. We're going to tell you openly and honestly, because you want to find the best fit for you.
Wasn't allowed to unmute there for a second. Thank you, Faith. So let's talk a little bit about residential life. Residential life is meant to be the learning that takes place outside of the classroom and provide ways for you to connect and have activities throughout your living environment. On the admission side, we're often asked questions like, what is the best residence hall? Where should I live? This, that, and the other. And Faith is laughing because she probably gets that question every day, giving tours and working orientation. And we say this, and it's not tongue in cheek, and we're not just telling people this here. I'm sure it's probably very similar at Creighton. The best residence hall is the one that you join and become community with. Every alumni, when asked what the best residence hall is, says the one that they were in their freshman year, because that's where they met their core group of friends and colleagues. It's where they had community, and to them, it was the best. So remember that too, as you look at colleges. It's not all what's a single or what's got a bathroom connected instead of a community bathroom. It is, what are those programs and things going on? Is there a learning community associated with it? How will I interact and make a community? I think is really the cornerstone of residential life at Catholic colleges. Faith?
I say quite literally the same thing when I'm on tour.
Too funny.
I say, no, I lived in this residence hall, so I'm a little biased. I think it's the absolute best, but the reality is you could stop any student. We walk past ask them what residence hall is the best, and whichever one they say, I would place a heavy wager on the fact that that is the one that they indeed lived in. But as far as making friends, I mean, all the girls I'm rooming with currently were all in my residence hall freshman year. Two of them actually lived, it was my room, then one of my current roommates' room, and then my other current roommate's room. So we were all in a line. But you get to make those bonds and friendships and really get to meet people from quite literally all over. As far as Creighton, we have the statistics, so I know for a fact we have at least one student from every country. So we have 50, or not every country, every state. So we have all 50 states. We also have representation from 50 countries as well, which is why my brain merged the two facts together. But you get the opportunity to get so many different experiences. Some of my favorite memories, especially freshman year, were just the random, you finish studying at the library and the student center and went up, and we have little common spaces we call neutral zones, and you'd walk in and intend on having a probably 10-minute conversation before you head to bed, and then suddenly it was later than you're going to let your mom know it ever was. Then you're still talking and just making those core memories.
Great. Yeah, we also, our tour guides here, we laugh because people always ask, like, what did you not bring with you to live on campus that you wish you would have brought? We get a lot of that about orientation time or late in the senior year, and almost all of them answer the same thing, which I would have never said or guessed, which is why we learn so much from students and what I'm learning from Faith today. But they all answered a doorstop. Yeah. And I thought, what? But yes, Faith, tell us about the doorstop.
No. Yeah, so we do an event actually where we get a brick and paint it and use it as a doorstop, but we get to be artsy with it. But we very much have an open door policy if you're comfortable with it. So a lot of the times I'd be studying in my freshman year room, and we just leave the door open and people would wander in. And it was just a wonderful way to meet people. At one point I walked in, we were walking around, it's kind of the first 2 weeks, like a lot of people left their doors open and people would wander the halls to meet people, which was a really cool way to get to know people. And it was such a Midwestern moment because I walked in and I was, hello. And this person looked at me and went, "You have cousins from South Dakota." And I went, "Yes." He went, "I went to high school with them." And it was we laugh about it now, but it was one of those very Midwestern moments where you just get to know people and get to know common interests and things like that. Like simply wearing like your high school basketball sweatshirt could start a conversation, and suddenly you're at a gym on campus playing basketball with some people. But living in the residence halls is amazing. One other thing I think is really cool about Creighton is how intentional our resident advisors are, or RAs. They truly embody kind of those pillars we already talked about with critical thinking, community service, spiritual development. I know for me, I talked to my resident advisor from last year, still pretty much on a weekly basis, just to check in, because I had 3, because we were on 2 different floors and I was in a living learning community. But the 3 of them are all amazing people who I look to for advice about different classes and things, different clubs and activities, and it's like having an older sibling on the floor. So it's a wonderful thing.
Great. It is. It's such a small, small world. Even when you start and you think I'm going to this school that might have, 6, 8,000, 20,000 undergraduate students, you really do find your sense of community. And we're here to help guide that. Now, Faith, you just touched on something I'm going to pull out for 1 second, if you don't mind talking about it. But Faith mentioned that she started her Creighton experience in residential life in a learning community. And learning communities are one of those things that takes a school from a big school to kind of another smaller element of it. Can you tell us about learning communities and what that is, Faith?
So the 2 main ones we have available to incoming freshmen are the honors program and the freshman leadership program. So as I mentioned, I was a mentor for a leadership program. It is this freshman leadership program that I'm currently still a mentor for. But your freshman year, as being part of the freshman leadership program, or we call it FLP, just because that rolls off the tongue easier. So FLP, we are all on the same floor. So we're quite literally living together in community, but we also have the opportunity to do weekly service together. We also attend a weekly seminar with different speakers we bring in. So I know we had one of our Jesuits speak a couple weeks ago, Father Carlson, and actually Father Carlson and Father Gillick both came in and spoke. But we also had oh goodness, I don't remember her exact title, but someone who works in management at the Target Corporation company out in Colorado flew in and spoke to us. So we have a lot of different people who all define leadership and live out leadership skills in different ways. So that's another thing that was really amazing about it. Is for me personally, I was involved in different leadership groups and organizations in high school. So that was kind of like my leadership experience. And then we had people who were captains of their baseball team, but we also had people who were like captains of their chess team. So acknowledging that leadership looks really different in a lot of different ways is kind of what that program is. But people had similar experiences in the honors program as well, that people had different experiences with education and things like that, different interests. And it really gives you an opportunity to get to know quite literally everyone who's in your space, and do a lot of cool things together. Like we do a ropes course, which is a very big trust thing, but it works well and is a ton of fun. So I highly recommend, if there are living learning communities, ask about them, learn about them, figure out if that's something you'd be interested in. I'd highly recommend it. Like Ms. Cox said, it really just takes the entire campus. It makes it a little bit smaller. It gives you the opportunity to meet people and get to know them in a much deeper, more heartfelt way.
Very good. Thank you for sharing, Faith. Meaning and purpose, I feel like we've probably talked about this whole presentation because it is interwoven in probably everything that we try to do at Catholic colleges. We know that you come to us having meaning and purpose in your life. Our job is to take those God-given gifts that you're joining us with and make sure that they continue developing, just like your spirituality, just like your academic prowess. Our job is to make sure that that continues developing when you're with us. And I think it's no secret that in these times of a somewhat mental health crisis among young college students, having meaning and purpose as a key cornerstone of the education that Catholic colleges provides has probably never been more important. And we care about your purpose and development and are here with you every step of the way to make sure that we keep promoting that. But Faith, how do you find meaning and purpose in your education, and also in light of students needing probably more mental health and just health support in general. How has that been provided to you?
Yes. So as far as meaning and purpose, a lot of things, especially when you're sitting in a class, you're like, why does this pertain to my life? Where's the meaning and purpose in that? And that's where Creighton professors really make a point to strive and say, this is where this is going to connect in a couple years. This is where it's going to connect, and this is why it's important. Or this is where it's not necessarily going to connect, but you're going to need this background knowledge to make these connections and points. So that's on the education part. But like I said, Creighton does a really good job at acknowledging you're a whole person. Education is just one key component. Athletics, different things are also key components as well. So we do have that cura personalis, which is care of the whole person. And I feel like meaning and purpose is really ingrained into that. So acknowledging that, yes, I'm a student. Yes, this is what I'm striving towards major-wise, but I'm also a friend. I'm also a mentor. I'm also someone who likes to go to the gym and run, even though it's horrible sometimes and I don't know why I do it. Normally when I'm doing it is when I have these thoughts. But anyway, acknowledging the meaning and purpose within that and finding people, especially advisors and mentors who work at the university who are going to help you see that meaning, be excited about getting out of bed in the morning and things like that. I know as far as mental health, that is a really real thing that we very much openly talk about at Creighton, whether that be attending seminars that focus on maintaining good mental health or running different surveys and practices. I know Creighton does really little things to just brighten people's weeks. So on Wednesday, they give out different things like I'm trying to think. They've done like succulents in pots where you can pot your own succulent. They do a very cute thing where they give out stuffed animals, but you have to stuff them and sew them up. So they do different things like that to just brighten your day. But we also do have free counseling centers. We also have out of campus ministry, different spiritual direction, things that can be done. I know for me, I have a spiritual advisor who I love to just meet with, and we'll just go for a walk around campus and just talk about how my week's going and things like that. So lots of different resources. That's the biggest thing is we have so many different resources because where you find meaning and purpose and how you strive towards that is going to look different than what I do, different than what my friends do. Creighton acknowledges that really well, and I feel like that's the intentionality you'll have at a Catholic university is you have meaning and purpose, and that's important. And how can we help you strive towards that?
Right. Faith and I were talking earlier about sense of community too, and we know that we see this in all things in Catholic colleges, but we both called out that recently you really saw a sense of community throughout the COVID experience that colleges have been having. You know, we both of our institutions stayed open and in person for students the majority of the time. I know both of our offices were welcoming visitors throughout the time with safety protocols in place, definitely. But we were on campuses that realized in light of mental health, community, that it was best for our students if they were able to, and if their health allowed it, to be able to be in person and to be in community. And that was not an easy thing for college campuses. It wasn't an easy thing to make those decisions, to put the testing in place, to put the requirements on place, to have quarantine housing and hotels in the area and everything else that had to be done to do that. But I think we all knew the sense of community that we would create was the most important thing. And we needed to do that for students that needed to be in person. And we also needed to do that for students that needed to be virtual or felt most comfortable in that way. So I, for one, have never seen Catholic colleges be more collaborative, come together more, really use our network as during this time of crisis. And it makes me proud to be part of Catholic education. And I hope that our students saw that too. But Faith, tell us, what is your take on the student experience in community during this time?
Yes. So community is honestly what brought me and drew me into Creighton, and has helped me stay through the hard accounting test nights and different things like that. It's the people here, and that people includes the staff. It includes my fellow students, everyone who comes through this university has that intentionality and that care for you. But as far as the pandemic, I was really worried because I was the graduating senior class of pandemic year 2020. So I didn't know what college was going to look like. Everything was kind of uprooted. But Creighton was so reassuring in being like, you're going to be here, and we're going to make sure you're safe. And we're going to be contacting my parents about how your students being safe and making sure that they're being rest assured too that their students being well taken care of and everything. We had a similar process where we also had quarantine set up at local hotels. We also had testing, which was really, I feel like, a beautiful thing for the community as well, because people who live nearby and were going home to see grandparents and things like that, what better way to assure your community you're being safe than to just have that reassurance of a negative test. But as far as the community now, we've kind of been able to grow and change out of that kind of pandemic mentality tentatively, hopefully for good. We'll see, knock on wood, but having the opportunity to see how those experiences brought us closer together. We appreciate being able to all eat in the dining hall at a giant table of 20 of us so much more because we weren't able to do that. We had to space out and appreciate being at packed basketball games because there was a lottery system for a while. Only half the students could go. So it really helped heighten that sense of community in a really positive way, that it kind of out of the darkness comes light. Like, Christ is risen. It's Easter season. It's very much a community thing as well. So it's beautiful.
Very good. Thank you. So student success on the administrative side, we do look for some important indicators along the way so that we are, we talked about all the way that we engage students in community and how they grow as people, hopefully with us, but we also want them to be successful alumni and graduates of our institutions. So we track student success in a couple of different ways, some common ways across campuses, Catholic colleges. Definitely you'll see us tracking first to second year retention rates, graduation rates, job placement, and then actual just satisfaction of students. We'll do satisfactory surveys so we can learn what we've done right, what we've done wrong, what we need to add support to. So I think that's a common thing you'll see at Catholic colleges. Tell us a little bit about student success at Creighton, Faith.
Yeah, so we have a lot of things in place to make sure that you're being successful in your classes, because that's kind of a big thing. They also do different success things, and like I said, as far as counseling and things, but a couple different things we have in place, one of which is all of our professors are required to have office hours. So if you're really struggling in the class, you have the opportunity to sit face to face with your professor and be like, hey, stuff's not adding up. Can you help me understand? I know I've done that a couple times with some of my professors, and they're all so understanding and able to help me strive towards my goals and what I want and honestly succeed. We also have something we call our Edge Tutoring Center. So that's a free resource for students to use. Again, focusing on that success. Oh, geez, I had another thing in mind, but I can't remember it now. But as far as making sure, oh yes, within the Edge, what I was going to say, there are those tutors who are actually students as well, helping you strive towards success. But there's a lot of different opportunities within that if you really succeed, you get to help others succeed. You're enabled to go and be a tutor and help out students with their learning and education as well.
We're running short on time because we've had such a good conversation, Faith. So I'm going to skip over faculty and alumni mentors because you already mentioned your mentor and the going for walks and learning and having a sounding board, which is something that you'll see commonly at our campuses. Our last topic that we wanted to touch on this slide is alumni engagement. And I think our main point there is that we know you come to us with gifts and talents. Our job is to also provide a network to keep you successful in the workplace thereafter. We do have career services offices. We have career links that let you, students at Creighton can use SLU's career services and vice versa. So we do have some network things in place too to really assist if you're looking for something in a different city that another university might be able to help with or provide. But Faith, give us your feelings on alumni engagement.
Well, I'm watching as a lot of my friends who are seniors, so they're leaving me, which is so upsetting, are making these connections and going literally all across the states, but making connections. There's a lot of power. I'm sure some of you could probably see it at your high school where you have alumni, and back in my day when I was there kind of thing. But the cool thing about universities is there's alumni who are 2 years older than you, and there's alumni who are 20 or 40 years older than you, who have established careers in so many different branches. And you get the opportunity to connect with them and figure out what it is you want to strive for post-graduation. And Creighton, at least, really will walk with you through that whole process. And it's not like, okay, you have your degree, bye now. They really take care of you for the rest of it. So it's wonderful.
Thank you, Faith. And just a reminder, visit college campuses, apply for admission the summer in between your junior and senior year if you can. Apply for scholarships to those institutions, and also the National Catholic College Admission Association has a scholarship. Please go to the CCAA website that is, you can see right here in front of us, and apply for that scholarship. Also, if you enroll in a Catholic college and are selected, you'll receive a Catholic college scholarship towards that institution. Faith, big thanks for joining us today. You gave so much insight and feedback, and we really appreciate that. And students, parents that may be watching, please visit Catholic colleges. Let us know anything we can do to help you throughout your search. Thank you. Have a great day.
All right. Thank you so much, Jean-Marie and Faith. Thank you all for joining us. When you close this window, there will be a link to a very quick 5-question survey, and we'd appreciate any feedback that you can provide. We do encourage you to check back to the schedule and sign up for more sessions. You'll be able to find this session's recording as well as all of the other session recordings at strivescan.com/NCCAA. Thank you all and have a great one. Bye now.